Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to Commute Talk. Today, I have moved the recording device a little bit. Yesterday, I rotated it. Things are just changing so fast around here, huh? So Ridwan writes in, I hope I'm saying your name right, Ridwan, asking about taking a gap year after college to do his own thing and um, doing work on open source during that year to be able to integrate better into the industry once the year is over. And he's also asking if it's possible to make money with open source. So these are really good questions and kind of tricky ones. So let's see. Taking a year off to do your own thing, if you can, that's really nice. I don't see a problem with that, and doing open source during that year to keep your skills fresh is a fantastic idea. I'm a huge believer in working on open source especially when you're learning, and then also later on when you've learned, to help other people learn. Because I'm probably a bit biased, but I really believe that you learn so much more from working together with like seasoned veterans than you ever learn in school. Once your base skill level is high enough to work together with other people, and it's just such a huge accelerant for your skill. So yeah, definitely do that. But of course, open source is a very large and kind of nebulous term. It can be anything from a one-man little indie game project to a hundreds of people relational database or web server or something like that, and everything in between. So it really depends on what you do in that year. Like, I would say you should really think about what kind of work you want to do afterwards. Like, what kind of industry are you looking to get into, which type of programming, and then maybe try to look for something that is similar to that style of development. So like, if you want to work at a really big company doing some big thing, then maybe go and work on some big open source projects, because that will help you get comfortable in that kind of environment. And even more importantly, it will expose you to people who are working professionally in that type of environment already. If you go and work on something something where people are paid to work, like these big projects like Apache or OpenOffice or the kernel, Linux kernel maybe, or web browsers, databases. Heck do I know. Big things where people are paid to work. It's usually a really good idea, because those places take everything very seriously, and if you do good work and you make good connections in a project like that, and you can get recommendations from those people if you do good work and they actually like your work. So don't go expecting recommendations just because you worked with someone, but like, if you do good work and you're responsive to feedback and you work together with people, then I'm only speaking for myself really, but if someone came to me and did good work in a project where I'm managing it, then I would definitely give them a written recommendation if they ask for it. And I have given recommendations before, and I don't know how much weight they carry, but I imagine that it's non-zero. So, but obviously you can also go and do small open source stuff if that's more your thing, or you can even do your own thing. It really matters. It really depends on what you want to do, what you're interested in, what you want to do later, and maybe what you think that the gaps in your skill are, like anything that you want to improve. So it's hard to say. It's hard to give a general answer. But my personal recommendation would be to work on something with professionals, like can be big or small, but it should have professionals in it, because then you'll get that serious approach. And yeah. And then you also asked if it's possible to make money with open source. Now that's a tricky question, right? And I think it's something that people are always trying to figure out ways to do, because for many of us, that's kind of the dream, right? Making money with open source development, because then you get to do open source, which is very dear to us. I mean, many of us at least, myself certainly included, and you would be getting paid at the same time. So that's like, does it get any better than that? But it is tricky, right? Because why would someone pay you for something that you would also do for free? So the easiest or the most straightforward way, I think, to get money for open source is probably these bounty programs. I don't think that they're necessarily easy. Actually, I shouldn't say that it's easy, but it is straightforward, because there are many projects that will pay you to solve individual bugs, implement individual features. Or you can apply to become like what's it called? Like this, they have like a summer of code programs and stuff like that, or you can just get hired as an intern in the open source project, and they have some kind of money set aside for paying people for that type of stuff, and then you would work 2 months on something, whatever. Essentially bounty programs, right? I think that's the most straightforward way, because then it's very, very clear what you're getting paid, what you'll be doing. But the issue with those type of programs is that they tend to be very high competition. So, and probably because they are so straightforward, and then a lot of people want to get in those. So you'll be competing with a lot of other applicants. So there's something to be aware of. But if you find something like that you're interested in, then I would definitely encourage applying to get in there. And then I think there are also places that do security bounties, which is basically if you can demonstrate some exploitable security issue in their software, then they will pay you for it. I'm not super familiar with how that stuff works, but it does seem like a feasible way to make money if you are good at and interested in that type of engineering. So yeah, bounty programs. And then there's other stuff, like crowdfunding, which I think is much harder. And there are websites like Patreon, for instance, and we got the upcoming GitHub sponsors, and I've seen some other things like Tidelift. But I think that this type of making money in this way is harder, because you have to get people to sort of trust you individually, and you have to engage with people in a different way. But I don't really know, to be fair. Like, I started doing Patreon a few months ago, and it's going pretty okay, but I am putting a lot of effort into this. And I have a lot of experience in the industry, so I don't know how feasible it is for someone with less experience to come in and use the same model. Because there's also a ton of competition in places like Patreon. So I don't know about that one. I think for someone young and inexperienced, I would probably look for bounty programs instead, where you can get some type of commitment from the project that if you do XYZ, they will pay you ABC sum of money, if that makes sense. Back in my day, we used to make money with shareware. I don't know if anyone does that anymore, but you can certainly make money with apps, for instance. If you make an app, put it on the App Store, it can still be open source, I think. There's nothing preventing you from sharing your code with people, I think. I don't actually know if that's allowed. I'm going to assume that it's allowed, but that's also kind of a crapshoot, right? Because there's no guarantee that you'll ever make a cent with the App Store model. And it's probably not the type of work that you're interested in anyway if you want to do open source. Because a large part of the appeal of open source is working together with other people. So doing stuff just by yourself is maybe not the funnest. But yeah. I guess those are my thoughts about that. I hope that there was something useful in there, and definitely ask more people, because these are just my personal views, right? And I never went to college, so I don't know what it feels like coming out of it. I went straight from dropping out of high school into software engineering, so I have a particular experience and particular history that gives me a particular mindset, and you probably do well to ask people of all kinds of mindsets. See what they say. But I think you're gonna have a really good year if you do meaningful open source work and you make good connections with professionals and you take the opportunity to learn from them by collaborating and listening. And yeah, future's bright. So yeah, I'm just gonna say thanks everyone for hanging out with me on the commute, and I'll see you next time. Bye.